Oh, you're welcome, friends. Good afternoon. We are welcome to another episode of Extra Bytes, and today is episode number 42, which is for us kind of very special because today we have very special guest, special for Exploring Light, special for me, special for I think for her as well. Um, uh, she is, you might call her a wedding photographer, but I think she is a different kind of, in a different league altogether. And so before I give her detailed introduction and ask her to share her detailed journey into photography, let me introduce you to her. Welcome, Shreya Sen, and welcome, Shreya. And I think it is so wonderful to have you on this session today. And thank you for accepting the invite. And because I was not, to be very honest, I was not very certain that you will be able to, you'll be saying yes. And but the moment I said, and she accepted almost immediately, and that is so fabulous for all of us here. And thank you, Shreya, again. And before you speak, let me read out something about Shreya for everybody's benefit. So, and you know when you read through her the kind of her bio and her profile, it kind of gives you an elated feeling as well, but you still get into thought process that why is she doing what she's doing, and what actually brought her from what she was already trying to do achieve while she was pursuing her psychology. So she graduated in psychology from York University, Canada. While she was pursuing her post graduation into psychology, she decided to quit and then for photography. But when she came to India, she was also a coach in a multinational software organization. That's quite from psychology to software organization. But her desire to push her right brain forward and her understanding of human emotions led to her to drop out of her master's program in Johns Hopkins University and pursuing her love for photography. She assisted renowned fashion and celebrity photographer R.Burman for a year in 2010 and had the opportunity to learn photography and assist during various shoots published in magazines such as Vogue, Elle, Filmfare, Salon International, Grazia and FHM. Her love for shooting real people pushed her towards shooting weddings, kids, families, and pregnant women, and finally starting her own venture, Shreya Sen Photography, in 2012. I can go on and on, but I think it is important that we hear this from Shreya herself. So over to you, Shreya.
So I just want to start off by saying, can you hear me, Jessica? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible very much.
So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. Of course, there was no way that I would say no to you, to everyone listening in. I met Jesse sir in 2014, 15. I don't exactly remember, but on one
I
of his
think I think we first met during India Clicks.
India click. No, first it was
First,
Ladakh, and
yeah, all right. Yeah.
so I had joined Justice on one of his Ladakh expeditions, and it was one of the most amazing trips of my life. He is a great mentor, um, and the kind of work I did on that trip, I've honestly not done in any of my travel trips after that. So I am really grateful for meeting Jesse sir when I did. That trip still, I made the photos of that trip into a coffee table book, which I will show later on. But yeah, I'm grateful that I met Jesse sir in that part of my journey, and he was always really humorous, always like so patient when he was teaching everyone, and it's things I had learned without him saying much that I feel like even now when I'm mentoring people, I think about how Jesse so used to do it. Like even like the little technical things which I'm sure he's repeating for like the 500th time. But even every time he repeats it, you can see the same patience. And I try to imbibe it even now when I mentor people. So thank you, Josie.
Hey,
About
this session is not about me.
but I just want to share this because I hope people know this about you. And like it's only when they go on these trips with you they will know it. So apart from you being an interviewer right now, I want them to know this other side of you, which is absolutely amazing and inspiring so many people out there. Um, so in terms of my journey, I think in you shared the details. Yes, I studied psychology from York University, following which I came back to India, and then I started working with. I started doing random things. The reason for that was psychology was different in India, and I wasn't enjoying it as not enjoying it. I wasn't feeling right about it. Um, then I um, then somewhere along the path, uh, my core has always been I want to make a difference to people's lives. I want to help out. I want to help out women. I want to help out kids, children, people going through mental health issues, and that's always been my core since I was 15. I never had a backup plan. It was always I want to be a therapist and nothing else. So when I came back to India and it was like I something was happening where I was like, okay, I'm not too sure about this field. It was a really difficult time because I had not even considered a backup plan. I started things actually I have not mentioned this because it was such a short stint. I also worked in an advertising firm. I did random things to figure out what else I can do, and I got lucky because when I started questioning what do I like doing, I was also in boarding before university, and I was known as someone who just walked around with my camera like all the time. I have like big fat albums from my boarding. I should shoot everything. I should shoot my friends. I should shoot flowers. I should shoot everything. There was no digital camera that time. This is with film. So I have over, like I have shot over 100 roles in boarding school, and my friends are petrified because I have photos which are completely like they're like you're going to blackmail us with these photos, like they're completely crazy fun photos. Um, and so then I was like, okay, I should walk around with my camera. Maybe and in the advertising firm, every day I used to go to work, and I always used to write, so they put me in copywriting. But I used to always go there and ask, but when can I go on a shoot? And eventually someone had to explain to me, no, you're a copywriter. You'll never go on a shoot. And literally the next day I quit because I was sticking around thinking, no, someday I'll go on a shoot. And then I was like, okay, at least I know that I want to be on a shoot. And then I got lucky. One of my friend's cousin sisters introduced. I mean, she's the one responsible for pretty much starting off my career in this field. She introduced me to Burman, and I learned everything from him. He had come back from Brooks University. I was lucky enough to be one of his first assistants. So that way, I was doing everything from lifting lights, lifting sandbags, to editing, to serving tea to actors and actresses. Also getting shouted at my dad that you have come back with a 4-year degree in psychology from a university with a scholarship and everything, and you are lifting lights. So I was like, no, it's okay. And even in the smallest things I did then, I knew I felt happy. Whether it was lifting lights, whether it was sitting, because in a lot of editorial and fashion shoots, you have to sit for hours and do nothing while you're waiting for a celebrity. And I loved even that. Like I did not feel bored. Mind you, this was a time like when Instagram wasn't there, you didn't have that much to scroll through. So I used to just sit around, I used to read sometimes, but I still didn't mind it. Then eventually that year, I also had happened to have applied to Johns Hopkins. because I thought maybe I'll just go and finish my master's in psychology. I wasn't convinced whether I could make could make photography my profession. Like I didn't feel I was good enough. So I went to John Hopkins, and luckily my father came with me. Um, and until then, he wasn't sure what I was doing because my dad is from the corporate field. He's very encouraging. He uh, but after a year working there, he started seeing I was loving what I was doing. I hadn't lifted my camera even once the entire time I was working with women. But I learned a lot just taking everything in, absolutely blindly taking everything in. Um, and then when I went to John Hopkins, I wasn't sure, I wasn't happy there, and I felt like somewhere maybe I knew that I had let psychology go at that time, like to learn it. And my dad was the one who looked at me and said, "I think you're meant to do photography." And he told me to come back to India and start. He said, "You need to come back home and start." And honestly, I'm so grateful he did that. And I'm so grateful for parents who give their children the confidence to just go follow their dreams. I wouldn't be where I am without my dad. So I'm quite honest about it. Everything I am is because of my dad. Um, I came back in 2012, and I would have loved to join Burman, but even when I was working there, I knew that uh, um, working with magazines, editorials, working with celebrities, he shot everyone from Sonam Kapoor to Kareena Kapoor to every actor. And even though I learned a lot, I realized it wasn't what I wanted to do. It didn't make me happy. I was happier shooting real people. I was happier shooting real emotions. And I think that had to do with my background in psychology and my intent from the start that I want to make a difference to people's lives. And somewhere doing celebrity work wasn't somewhere there in that, which did not fit that core. So I came back and I decided, okay, and this was in 2012, 2011 end. And I was lucky because that year was when the candid wedding photography was beginning to happen. And I am one of the first few people who joined that wagon. That time there was only like a handful of people, and I sat down and I remember I made a list. I think it was Ramit Batra, it was Sefi, um, there was Photo Tantra, um, mm, and literally like I had one page, and in everyone's names fit in that one page. Everyone I researched, and being from the field of psychology, like you're taught to research. So I researched, and everyone's name fit in one page. And I was like, okay, so I think I can be one of them. Like I think I can. Like, and there were not that many women. So I was like, maybe I can bring in a new perspective and create something that that makes me happy and uh, shoot shoot weddings. So but I had not started with weddings. I had actually started with maternity photography and babies. Reason being, again, my I always wanted to do something for women, so I actually started with maternity photo shoots. That time there was zero maternity photographers. Like from 2012 to 14, if you googled maternity photography India, only my name used to pop up. Um, and so then I slowly started, um, and I will share the rest of that journey as I present this presentation. But yeah, for me, I just want to start by saying it's a crazy journey. It was not a straight. It's not been a straight path. It's still not a straight path. But I am grateful every day that I am doing something I love. I've been fortunate to do something I love. Um, and I also want to start off by saying that a lot of photographers say that you have to have the talent, but talent, otherwise you cannot get in this field. So I want to clarify my perspective. I don't think I had the talent. I came from a family of artists. My grandmom is an amazing painter. Like she she's 96 now, has Alzheimer's. But if I could, I don't have it here. But if I could show you her art, it is absolutely stunning. My dad, same. I think he got the genes, and I have one cousin brother who got the genes. But I did not. If you see me draw, I will mostly draw stick figures, and I cannot. Everyone makes fun of me because if you give me a piece of paper and ask me to cut it, I cannot even cut paper in a straight line. So I am more stressed when I have to give prints to client and I had to cut the borders, and it
See,
used to give me extreme stress. Yeah, so I have no art and craft skills whatsoever.
I say that
But
when
I
somebody,
learned. Sorry.
I say that when somebody asks me to draw a circle, I draw an amoeba.
So same, like, so I just want to say, but at the same time I was exposed to a life of art. um my mom and dad took, like, I led a life surrounded by paintings. I led a life like where I was taken to theaters for plays. There was always music playing in my house. I wasn't taught like the history of art, or the academics of art, but my dad loved painting. So we used to just go and walk around in a museum. We didn't know. I still don't know the names of artists as such, but um, I was surrounded by it. Even our homes, like, we liked having an aesthetic sense. So that aesthetic sense developed through all of this. But in terms of, did I have an automatic, like I picked up the camera and knew everything? Absolutely not. In fact, I am the least technical person to date. If you give me a camera, I will whine and shout and scream every time I have to switch to a new gadget, to a new flash, system. Mostly the on camera flashes, I just feel like they're so complicated, unnecessarily complicated. It gives me extreme stress. Um, so I'm not a technical person, but I learned everything. I was willing to be like, this doesn't come naturally to me, but it is not impossible to learn. So if I want to impart one thing to anyone who feels like, nahi yaar, talent nahi hai, it's not true. Yeah, talent will take you to another dimension, maybe, but you can still learn it. I think anybody can learn it. If you have something to say in photography, if you have something that you feel and you see some experiences, there is a way to translate that in your photography, and it's something that I say always. um, in terms of even the work I did, if you when you were asking me why did I choose from moving all of this, um, I have a very difficult life story, and I'm not yet ready to share it. I feel with time, at some point, I will start sharing it. But I come from a home where my parents are separated, so I don't have family photos after the age of 14. I have only a few albums, and that's it. I don't have any family photos. Um, I and there's more things happening in the recent times, um, and so those photos that I see, when I see a mom and a child, when I see, like, a full family, like, laughing in a shoot, I really appreciate that, and I understand the value of it because I never had it. Which is the reason I shoot real people. I shoot families. I photograph moms and kids. I photograph dads and kids. I photograph grandmoms in an entire wedding, and granddads, because I didn't have that for a huge part growing up. So if I find it at a very core level to do it for my clients so that they appreciate, because it's something that I learned in my life, that money is great. Money can, give you a great lifestyle. And I had the most cushy life. I had the best education, but the importance of love and family is something that I put up there, like, absolutely on the top, and it's why I do what I do, to answer that question. Um,
That's wonderful, Shreya. And there is some couple of thoughts that are crossing my mind. So before you get into the presentation part, do you think that your stint in psychology, you did graduate in that, and then your stint in advertising as well, or even sales in between, um, played some part in shaping you, in helping you shape your photography and shoot what you do now, or did they play some kind of role there?
So definitely psychology was a huge impact because psychology, I mean, I was always a very observant child. But psychology gave me the language to see people at a very holistic manner, in a very holistic manner. So, and to recognize even smaller emotions. So I feel like within a wedding there are many emotions. We know the major ones, but there are, like, I concentrate on a lot of things in between, and I could recognize those emotions because of my background in psychology, but I feel anyone could do that. The other thing, like, because I was learning a lot of therapy and counseling, empathy is something that was taught in programs. It's something that a lot of photographers in wedding photography learn as they go, but that was something that I started with. So empathy was something definitely that helped me when I started. In terms of advertising and the little stints I did, honestly, no, because I used to go over there not willing to learn. I used to go in this very blocked state of mind, like, why am I doing this? Why am I cranky? So why am I doing this? I don't want to be here. And, I didn't like, I was very critical of everyone. I was like, I don't like the way people speak here. This is too competitive. And I just wasn't in a state to learn in that place. The coaching and the corporate work, even though like I didn't enjoy it, but it taught me little bit of structure, little bit of um, that when you have to um, share, when you have to create any content, how do you structure it, and how do you so that someone can understand it better, and how do you structure it even further so that a bigger audience can understand it better. What really helped me is that I am, in terms of business, my dad has been in the corporate field all his life. He's been the CEO of an MD of multiple companies. My dad did the most wonderful thing of he would come back home and discuss things happening at work and ask me things. And he almost treated me like an equal, like someone who had like something to say. So even though I used to be like, I'm not a business person, and I keep saying I'm not a business person, I'm not a business person, I didn't realize then that unconsciously through my dad I was learning leadership skills. I was learning just how to run an organization. So all this, the business part, I have unconsciously learned seeing my dad and hearing my dad. But in terms of the other random stints I did, there were times when I was just shut down and not willing to learn someone I didn't learn from there.
But that's another, because your father directly or indirectly played an important role in probably teaching you the business acumen, and because I always say this to anybody who's trying to get into the field of photography, into business of photography, is that photography as an art is something, is one thing, and making money out of it is a totally different ball game. And if you do not have those sales skills, or all those marketing skills and entrepreneur skills, then I think you're going to fail. So this it's kind of a fine balance that you have to maintain. And probably, as you rightly mentioned, that uh, those days were important for you, and while you were learning, so subconsciously, everything you are getting trained, and that is trying to help you. That started helping you in your business. But you also mentioned in between that it was shooting a lot of celebrities, and you did not want to do that. And I think, if I look at somebody else, probably even including me, if any photographer who's trying to make big, in this field of photography. It's very, very competitive. And you get an opportunity to shoot celebrities and probably start foreseeing yourself being called a celebrity photographer. Everybody would jump onto it and will grab that opportunity. But you said no, somehow it doesn't attract you. And so, what were you actually looking at in your mind that you wanted to move away from there and shoot human emotions, or so? What was it going on in your mind that point of time?
So one, I'll be very honest. Like I've never had a fascination with celebrities and bigger than life characters, and the reason being, because of who my dad was. I always grew up in a house where, like, we had many parties in the house where there were CEOs and MDs, and everyone used to come home. So I grew up in that. I don't mean like celebrities, but like people who are very big in the field. So I grew up around that, and which is why probably I was never enamored by celebrities as such. Um, for me, what enamored me is has always been connection. Like if I am even sitting like in a bus or a train or just sitting in a park, and someone starts talking to me, and I feel a connection, and I feel something like, a connect with a person, then that drives me. And that being said, I recently have started shooting celebrities because of the fashion work I do. And even then, like, the celebrity, the work that I create over there, and I realize when I connect with that celebrity, or that model, and and there is a connection there. There is an exchange of um, some sort of energy there. That is when I feel happy with that work, not because of who they are, because I felt a connect with them. So that is the reason, like, which why like I moved away from the cinema. But at the same time, I do want to add, like, even though like if some actors come, I don't really react. I used to not react when I used to work with Burman. But there have been times like like unconsciously, like if I'm just fond of some music, like I love music by Ankur Tiwari, and even before he did this recent movie with Zoya Akhtar, I used to love his music. So I remember I bumped into him and I acted like a complete like crazed fan, and my husband was really embarrassed. Same way, like I was in Venice and randomly I bumped into Meera Nair on the streets, and I love her work. I love her movies, and again acted like, oh my god, I love you. So for me, I think um, the larger than the characters doesn't fascinate me, but when someone creates something, again, it's their work that I connect to. It's the music I listen to 500 times. It's a movie that I cry to. I'm already connecting with you with your work. Then I behave like a crazed person, and I'm quite like vocal about it. I have no ego about saying I love you, and I am like that. But yeah, I that is the reason. Like for me, it's the connection. It's not the larger than life character.
That's interesting. So I think let's get into your journey through whatever you want to show. I think it's going to be very, very interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm just gonna start with my journey in wedding photography. This um, I just want to right away start off by saying that this presentation will be slightly different because um, I didn't want to show work which is like all these cool tricks and all of that, because many, and I often don't do like talks because I genuinely don't want to create clones of myself. Like I want people to find their own voice, to take little bit of everyone, but not become a clone of what I do, a clone of me. Um, Also, for me, wedding photography is lot more than those one killer images. Every time someone asks me, even my website, I have to change it, but every time someone asks me to pick 10 images, I really struggle, And the reason for that is I don't shoot for single images. I shoot for the wedding story. So for me, the single images are fine, but for me, when I craft those stories together and I create a slideshow and I create an entire story of the wedding, um, that is where I feel happy. So um, yeah, so I just want to start off by that. So if you're looking, no, so I'm going to start off with that. So for everyone who might not know my work, my Instagram page is Shreya Sen Photography and my website is shreyasenphotography.com. My website needs a ton of work right now, and I am working on that in this lockdown. So I just want to start with that. I run two initiatives. One is called Ask for Help, which I've just restarted recently again. It is a channel for anyone to. I started this in 2018 for like my way of reconnecting with my background in psychology, and anyone can write in on Instagram if they're going through something, and basically whether that's something personal, something to do with your career, and I basically help you with whatever resources I can. The other thing I have also started is called Straight from the Art. The website is going to be up soon. It's similar to what Jessica is also doing, and I just interview photographers, artists, and it's going to be all kinds of inspiring people. These are my two babies, and I'm quite excited to work on them. So whenever you guys have a chance, just keep an eye out for both of these. Okay, so I just want to start off. I know that we are almost getting out of the lockdown, and there might not be that many people who are signing. But if for anyone who tunes in to our talk later on, so I'm just starting off with doubts that we have as photographers and reading that out. So, doubts and fears. You cannot do this. You are not talented. You did not go to photography school. You will never succeed in doing this professionally. You are. You do not have a full frame camera and the right lenses. Your portfolio will never be good enough. You are a failure. Your portfolio will never be amazing without getting that fancy palace wedding. Your work sucks. It is nowhere close to the best. You will never get there. You will try and you will fail. Nobody will like your work. Then you will become a disappointment for your family. You should just quit. And one of the reasons I'm starting off with these very scary words, these are words that we, these are words that we have in our minds, whether we are wedding photographers, whether we are just photographers, even otherwise. And I wanted to start with on this note to just explain to you that even as we grow and become amazing photographers um, in the wedding industry, a lot of these thoughts keep coming back. Um, and we do experience these three things. Number one, these constant three members: Dadi fear, Uncle Pale, and Chachi doubtfire. And we experience that whether it is in our own minds or at times like people, like we'll have family members, we'll have people telling us, no, no, don't get into this, you're going to fail. And even when you make it, unfortunately, with the pressures of the competition that's happening within this field, you start comparing yourself with other photographers on Instagram, with award-winning photographers, and you will be back to meeting Dadi Fear, Uncle Pale, and Chachi Dogfan. So I just want to start with that note that um, like wedding photog we imagine wedding photography, a lot of us, and this is for beginners, a lot of us get into wedding photography thinking, what do we have to do? Um, we just have to go to a wedding. We should know how to manage our cameras, and we should know how to manage the technical side, and then shoot a photograph and give it to the client and put it on Instagram. And then we have to figure how to get uh, 5,000 to become an influencer on Instagram and get our work there, and then do sales calls and figure a way to book our client. That's how most of us, when we start off think that this is probably what our journey will be about wedding photography. And I want to start off by saying that wedding photography is lot more than that. And wedding photography in India, when we started off, it was like when we started off in 2011 and 2012, the batch, I would say, or many of us who started off during that time, we were lucky because um, at that time, so I just want to give some history on that. At that time, you had your traditional photographers, and the traditional photographers were just shooting things as without any creativity. They were directing in a very particular manner, which a lot of traditional photographers continue to do. There was no desire for having a great client experience, which is why like a lot of people in the earlier generation hate going through the wedding photographs because they think about, oh my god, he or she he there were not that many women there, but so he really tortured me by making me do these weird poses, and they don't even want to look at their wedding photos. But and most of all, there was no editing and there was no creative voice as such. It was more about, this is your wedding happened and this is a record of it. The generation before that, I feel, who were shooting on film, I've seen some. My dad's wedding photos are brilliant. So I think that is a different generation. So I'm not going to get into that, but I'm talking about 2011, that time when we were just stepping in. What kind of work was out there? So when this new genre of photographers who were quitting their software jobs, quitting photography like me, of and getting into this new dimension of saying that I think I can create something new in this field. And we were lucky because at that time, most of us, I used to shoot alone. I used to tell clients that you get your regular photographer and I will just shoot your story. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't even know where it's coming from. Okay, sorry. Okay, yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, so at that time, we didn't have that much pressure. Like, you could just go to a wedding. And, oh my god, I don't really know. It's not even my phone, so I'm just wondering. One second. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Um, so at that time we were lucky because we could just, there was not that much pressure to, um, you could just shoot what made you happy, and and because there was the weight lifted off of, oh my god. Sorry, Jesse, so just give me a second. I'm just going to figure. Okay, hopefully it doesn't come again. um just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want this to interrupt. So 1 second. Okay. Okay. Oh my God. I don't even know where that phone is. So it's ringing in some other room. 1 second. If you can just give me 1 second, I'm just.
Yeah.
Can you give me 1 second? I think
Yeah,
I need to go to the other room and switch off this.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It happens at times. Just go and get your yeah. So, guys, it's going to be a very different session as you can see. So let me fill it up for her while she's away. And I met her in. Let me try and come back. Probably. All right. So yeah. So I met her in 2015, if I'm not wrong, 2014 or 2015. She had decided to join our photo tour to Ladakh, and that actually was the first time that we met, and that was kind of phenomenal knowing her, and her calm demeanor actually stood out, and she would go about shooting, creating her work, creating her images in her own space, and she'll probably talk about it also. But then, almost few months later, almost 4 5 months later, um, we launched India Clicks as our initiative, one of the unique initiatives that we could not replicate later on. But that was kind of a symposium come exhibition and contest as well, and where there were speakers got invited from all across the world. And but to cut it short, so there is Shreya. So I was trying to fill in the gap, and Shreya had won that contest, India Clicks, and so we'll talk about that later. So you can start sharing again, probably.
Okay. I'm so sorry. Like this iPhone is funny. 1 second.
Yeah.
So, like I was saying, we were just lucky because there wasn't that much pressure, and you could just go there and shoot. So, from that to nowadays, if anyone's stepping into wedding photography now, it's a completely different ballgame. Um, so, I just want to start off by saying that it's you have to be much more than just creative, and that is what my presentation is going to be about. So to start off with, the goal of the next hour, and you can stop me if I go ranting. Uh, the goal of the next hour is understanding the evolution of becoming a wedding photographer through a holistic framework that I've been working on. So for the past 2 years, I've been working on this framework, and being a wedding photographer, from my experience, if I have to explain to anyone, is going to be a journey. It's going to be an evolution, and I want to give you a framework which I kept coming back to, and I hope it helps you in your journey. Um, I'm also going to share my own journey, and I'm going to keep bringing back that framework and show you how my art and business evolved. Um, Then thirdly, I'm going to share where I am right now. I'm still on a journey. I'm still learning. And I'm going to show you a little bit of my current style of work. We are going to end it with my magic tool that has helped me in wedding photography and in my life. I hope even Jussie sir joins me on using this tool, and I'm going to show a little bit of it. This is the first time I'm doing this, so you might have to be a little more patient with me, and I might be awkward while doing it, but I hope I can take you through it. And I hope it helps you sharing that secret tool of mine.
Yeah. It will be. I'm already looking forward to it. Whatever you are, because this is quite.
So, before I start my presentation, what anyone who is watching this presentation, who whether you are a beginner's you're beginning or getting into wedding photography, or wherever you are in terms of your journey, I just want you to take a piece of paper and write down what is your drive right now in terms of where you are at your career in wedding photography or photography. And what I mean by that is, what do you want right now? Are you in that place where you're like, I just want to learn how to just begin wedding photography, or you want to be like, I have been shooting for the past 2-3 years, now I want to learn how to be upskill myself, or you can be like, now I've been creating great work, now I want to expand my business. So just like that, write down on a piece of paper, um, what is your drive right now, what do you want to learn um, right now, or where are you right now, and where what is that little voice in your head telling you, and write down at the piece in a piece of paper, and I'll tell you later what you can do with that. So this holistic framework is something that I'm hoping becomes a much bigger thing for me. But and I have very complicated. I'm someone who loves theories. I think it's my background in psychology. I'm always like working on theories, and that is how I came up. And of course, if I've been in photography, I had to build a theory even in photography. So that's why I was working on this holistic framework model of since the past 2 years. Um, but I'm not gonna mess with your head and make it too theoretical. I'm gonna simplify it and bring in Kung Fu Panda. And I hope you enjoy it. If it feels very complicated, I do request you to keep coming back to this talk at different points in your life, and maybe it'll make sense then. In terms of breaking down, this is the framework. In terms of breaking it down further, it's something. Okay, so let me start off by just explaining to you the holistic framework. So this is something that I've been working on, and people. I'm just calling it the holistic model. There must be people who know about this and call it what they like. But this framework is something that I've realized over. I've been shooting now for the past 8 years, and I've been beginning to realize the importance of this framework recently. But unconsciously, I was already within this framework since the time I started. And I want to say that all of us are. So, what comes under body? What comes under body when you start your photography journey? So, body, supposing you start as a wedding photographer, body is literally, it can be very physical component, which means um, I want a camera body. It can be like the structure, anything that has structure. So um, it can be your physical body. Like a lot of people say that you have to be fit to be a photographer. It can be like, you know, things you do to build that structure, which is habits. In mind, it comes under knowledge. So think of, you decide you want to be a wedding photo, you want to be a photographer. So you then go on YouTube. and you research how to first of all figure out your manual. So first you read your manual, so that comes under mind and knowledge. um, and you go on YouTube and you learn photography, or you go to a course and you learn, so that comes under mind. um, and and those learning channels keep growing as we go. Third, social. Now many things come under social. One is like say like um, one is the literal social media, like how do you get your work out there. What also comes under social is how are you networking. How are you getting your work out there through networking. um, then like word of mouth, all of that, how is that working for you in terms of the social part. um, so now these three components, a lot of us think about when we start our journey in wedding photography. And the emotional component in the beginning is usually uh, what it starts off with, just how do you feel when you start shooting photography. And for most of us it's just like, I am happy shooting. And that is the first emotional component that is there when you start off as a photographer. You know that when you pick up your camera, you're just happy doing it. So that is the emotional component. um, the spiritual component in the beginning, um, I is there, but it's it's not that much there. It's something that uh, where when you pick up, I feel the emotional and spiritual is sort of connected. But spiritual would be like your calling, where I see this with, I mean, all of us have heard this, a lot of software engineers quitting their jobs to join photography. So it could be that you stepped into this journey because you felt a spiritual calling of, I want to do something creative. So now these five things, these five parts of this model will uh, there will be things added to it, and you'll keep coming back to it in different parts of your journey. I will talk about um, like every time I will talk about as we go on, how there are like, how do I explain this? How like the more complex parts in the mind, body, mind, soul, and emotional, spiritual parts as you keep progressing. Um, and as you finish one phase, suddenly you come back and you feel there, like you need to get to your next phase. And then this model normally helps in telling you the gaps, that okay, I need to fill these gaps, and how do I go to my next phase. So this model is something that helped me, because of which I could create it. And it helped me to realize, okay, I've learned the basics, now I need to go to this is my next goal, this is what I want to become. So where are the gaps I need to what is my next step in terms of within the mind, body, soul, within the five categories, and how do I now start filling the gaps. I know it sounds very complicated. Justice, am I sounding too complicated? I can't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, I said it is kind of profound. So
Okay, so I think as we give examples, I'll be able to explain.
yeah, yeah.
So I am going to explain this model through my journey. This is just a summary of what, like, my journey, and I'm going to break it down after this slide. But to give you like a top down view, in 2010 I first got my first SLR, and like everyone else, I was shooting street travel, sunsets, leaves, cats, dogs, um, and I loved all of it. I hadn't gone at this point in 2010. I hadn't gone to photography school, so I pretty much learned by just fiddling with my camera and asking friends to teach me. Then in 2012 was when I met Burman, and 2011-12 I worked with Burman, and I learned, and that was my next phase. It was when I came back from John Hopkins. I had my first paid wedding. My branding developed, and my Facebook page developed. In 2012 to 2013, I started shooting more. I also happened to join Seffi Bergeson's had a wedding photography workshop that he started, and I went for that. As work grew, I was a nominee for better. I started getting awards, also Better Photography Awards. I was also called on any TV show Band Baja Bride. So that was what was happening. Then 2000, with all this, 2014 and 15 was I kept growing. I stepped into destination weddings. I did a lot more destination weddings, and work was growing. I was still shooting alone at that time, and I was beginning to feel the pressure. Um, I was shooting alone. I was editing alone, and I was beginning to feel the pressure. In 2015 and 2016, I had a personal setback. I had to put all my work on hold, and it was really unfortunate because that setback probably cost me in my journey, because and in my journey in terms of whoever my contemporaries who started in 2012 and 2011 have become massive studios today, like everyone that I know. And um, and I often felt bad that that setback really cost me that growth. But I mean, over the journey, I realized that I was just meant for a different path. Um, then 2016 and 2017 was when everything changed for me in terms of creatively. Um, I think even if you watch Divyam's talk, Divyam Mehrotra from Wedding Grams, he
Yeah.
speaks about Silk Inspire, and there is a huge number of us. Silk Inspire was started by Sefi again in Goa, and it was transformational to most of us who went there. The speakers were phenomenal. It completely changed perspectives, it transformed people, and everyone, if you see who attended, and I feel that it he pretty much and the festival pretty much changed the landscape of wedding photography in India. Until that time, people were creating interesting work and candid work, but in terms of suddenly people breaking away from the word candid and creating work which had their own voice, had their own style. A lot of it happened because of Silk Inspire. So there is some part of my journey from 2018 to 20. I will be talking about that as we go. So I'm just going to start. So from working with Burman, and pretty much learning from him, I just want to start off by saying that these are things I learned. I learned the editorial style of photography, which is like, shooting for magazine. I understood lighting. um, he pretty much taught me editing from absolutely from scratch. I understood work ethic. He was very particular about being on time, not a minute late. Even if our call time was 10 o'clock, he was half an hour early to the shoot. The preparation of a photographer, just from like wrapping wires to being organized, all that I learned from him. Developing art and what it takes. And I didn't understand the language of art, and I think this was taught to me by just seeing Burman work, and a lot of things he used to say very casually. Um, and also presenting your work. So one of the advantages of working with editorial magazines is you understand layouts, you understand how two images go together, and they tell a different story when you place it together. So that was a huge learning for me, that how do you like once the shoot is done, how do you construct a story, um, which says something through the presentation of your layouts. So in 2011 to 12, I was developing pretty much learning things in the artistic way. So this was my first wedding before, and like I said, I'm not going to be this talk is not going to be about my amazing photos. It's going to be about my journey and how my work has progressed. This was my friend's wedding, my best friend's wedding. As you can see, this was before I started shooting with Burman. um, I did not know anything about editing. I used to do what a lot of people do in terms of just putting any preset without understanding highlights and shadows and um, deep contrasts, and just doing all of that without understanding the fundamentals of photography. But at the same time, when I look at these images, I can see parts of my education in psychology, because there were still emotions here. Like you can see, like this is her favorite photo because it's her emotion of complete joy. Their joy over here. Then I always love details. Like I think that again has to do with my exposure with art. So I was shooting a lot of details, which of course a lot of the traditional photographers were not shooting at that time in her wedding. Again, details, portraits. I always love portraits. And again, her and her dad. So this is again that same, like shooting photos that um, with family, with people you love, because that was the reason I was doing this. So this was my first wedding. I feel it's important for me to show this because this was before that I knew that I liked shooting happy photos and I had an eye for emotions. But technically, like in terms of my editing, in terms of composing, I still had a long way to go. I also was doing these weird blurred edits at the back of them, um, and uh, and all these tricks, which which obviously I wasn't being guided at that time. So this was the work I was creating. So after working with Burman, this was my first wedding after working with Burman. This was after not picking up my camera for 1 year. This was again my first wedding of my friend, and this was how it transformed. I was still shooting details, I was still shooting emotions, but my editing completely changed. I was very clean in my edit. I didn't do any crazy presets and all of that. I had respect for the highlights and shadows in keeping the details. Like all that language had started coming in because of what Bowman was teaching me. Um, this was again one of my first paid weddings. It was a simple wedding. I was thinking about composition. I was, thinking about storytelling. All this was taught while I was working with women. Again, I was like, now I had learned not only to compose and tell a story, but also to edit it in a very clean way. This was the first few weddings that I shot after. And again, emotions was important to me. So I was still shooting the same content, but in a with a different after learning a different skill set. um, in that year, I also started second shooting. And while I was second shooting, there were always images I shot like this, which was just like details because the details just made me happy. And there was lot I was shooting which had no connect to the bride or the groom. Like they wouldn't care about this random photo over here. But it was just something that made me happy, and I used to shoot that too.
But sorry for interrupting. Those
Oh,
kinds of images, did they make it to the client's album and all, or no?
yeah, absolutely. They used to. I used not no not to the client album. The detailed shot of the decor, yes, but not these. These were like they. I mean, if someone appreciated photography, they used to come back and say, "Oh, that's a really cool photograph." But
Yeah.
in terms of the client story, no, not really. Um, but at the same time, they would appreciate that I noticed it. That I
Right.
noticed
Right.
something. Um, So again, to bring it back to that model, what was developing at that time was my mind, as in I was developing a lot of knowledge. I was just going on, um, um, you know, learning new things from Burman. The body, oops, sorry, the body in terms of I was now putting it into practice. I was shooting a lot. I was putting it into practice. I was shooting all these, um, a lot more, and I was uh, calling up photographers and saying, can I shoot with you? I will pay for my own stay, I will pay for my own hotel, can I just come and shoot with you, and you don't have to pay me. And this was in and there were a lot of people who were really kind enough to let me come and do so. um, and I learned from them also. I learned from like now photographers who were on the field and they were teaching me. In terms of social, the only thing that was there at that time was my website, which I did in a very terrible manner. I because I always because I guess I did that advertising stint. I was really particular about having a logo. And my early first logo was these two Bengali feet, and it was red with Shreya Sen Photography. So I was actually one of the few people who had logos and a proper branding at that time. And I mean, now everyone does it with their watermarks and everything, but in 2011, 12, not many people had their brandings. But I was always particular from the beginning that I want a branding. Um, I want a logo. But at the same time, even though I had the structural parts, like I had a logo, I still didn't know at that point what my brand stood for. And like everyone else, I used to think that my brand stood for candid photos. What candid photos meant was just like happy photos. That's all it meant. It didn't have a more definitive language. Um, in terms of emotional, um, I was very connected to most of my clients even then. Many people say that uh, photography is separate from you, your company is separate from you. I've kind of slightly struggled with that because for me, like I need that connect with my clients. So it was every photo of mine, I was very emotionally tied. Um, and again at that point, spiritual, not that much. Like I was just happy doing what I was doing. I knew I was following my calling, and there was no tiny voice telling me anything. I was just concentrating more on learning and more on pretty much the body and mind part. More on learning and more on putting it into practice. Then 2012, 2013, Sefi Bergeson's workshop that I spoke about. His workshop was amazing. Um, he like it was in a beautiful um, vineyard in Bangalore, and he there was a lot of clarity in terms of very technical things, which I didn't know. Like just I didn't know how to handle my flash, my off camera flash. I was just putting it on top of my camera, and like I mentioned, because I wasn't a technical person, I was concentrating more on no, I want to more on the art. I kept thinking, no, it's okay. The light doesn't matter. So the moments matter. The flashlight doesn't matter that much. So I wasn't giving it that much emphasis that time. I started second shooting with others in the field, and during that time, from a lot of these photographers, I learned the flash. I learned just the basics of the off camera. Like I used to keep it on the top of my camera, and I learned a lot. And I picked up a lot of tips. People are really kind if you are willing to learn. And I learned by just being willing to be a learner and helping them out and giving them the photographs that help them build their story too. Um, I also want to add that my dad was extremely supportive in this time. I was lucky that because of my dad, I could afford the cameras. I was fortunate that way. So, in terms of the camera bodies, like in terms of the body part, where a lot of people struggle with, I'm coming back to that, where you don't have even a camera body. How do you then create? I was lucky because I was fortunate, but I at the same time want to say that anyone who is in the beginning and says that, but I don't have money for a camera, just rent it. borrow it, rent it. Um, it's much easier nowadays to rent it, and yeah, and get started. Shoot with your phone, learn, keep practicing composition with your phone, and learn it. Even for me, like I started. So while I was learning during this phase, it's a funny story. But I realized I really struggled with, like, when with layering and like a photojournalistic work. And mostly, if you gave me a wide lens or like a 24 mm or a 35 mm, where I had to construct a story and they had multiple characters there, um, I really struggled. And then so I decided to really work on that. I worked on using the wide lens and composing when you have multiple elements within a frame. I learned by practicing that, even not on my phone. I guess that time we weren't shooting that much with our phone, but just I learned that on the street, on our travels. I was constantly shooting like that. And the other thing that happened was, my dad, we were traveling to see the Taj Mahal because my dad was really excited that I have taken this field, and he said, "Come, let's go and see the Taj Mahal." And I went to see the Taj Mahal, and I cried, and it was the funniest thing. And my dad is also, because he loves photography, he loves architecture, and he actually loves. And I think it comes to him naturally to shoot architecture. But I stood in front of the Taj Mahal and I cried, and he said, "Why are you crying?" So I said, "Because I don't know how to shoot the Taj Mahal." And that's when I realized that I basically struggled shooting structures or like architectural elements. So, and I didn't know how to balance a very structured, like I didn't know how to balance a building or shoot architecture. And people find the story funny because they're like, Taj Mahal is easy to shoot, but I just couldn't shoot it. I stood in front of the Taj Mahal and I cried. I said, I cannot shoot the Taj Mahal. So again, moment I realized that, I cried. I won't be ashamed to say I cried. But then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna figure it out. So even though like portraits, emotions started was coming to me naturally, all the things that didn't come to me naturally, I put in extra hours in it. I put in all my effort and work in it. Um, the other thing that happened during this phase was, sometimes you have great mentors, and then sometimes you have mentors who don't really explain a concept, and you just replicate them blindly, and you end up learning the wrong things. um, and one of the photographers I second shot with had a habit of tilting his camera and shooting during weddings. Like they call it the Dutch tilt. Everyone just research Dutch tilt on Google. Basically, it's a style used in a lot of films to create kind of a disorientation. So you tilt the camera to infuse it with energy. Unfortunately for me, this photographer was using this technique in all wedding photos, including portraits, including detail shots. He would tilt the camera like this, and until recently, I realized that the reason he was doing that was because he also shot food. And normally, food, at times when you're shooting food and you, to just give it more dynamic thing, you tend to tilt your camera. And I realized that much later, but at that time, I just blindly copied him. And, oops, sorry. And that resulted in not so good photographs. So the during this time, I also started building a portfolio, and I was gaining popularity within the industry because I was always trying new things. This was way before anyone had tried all these kind of paint shoots and holy shoots. I have to talk about this photograph because this was one of the weddings. This photograph became, like, I won better photography with this photo. Wedding Sutra put it up. Like, it became viral, and because of which, lot of the clients I got because of this photograph. I'm also going to explain why after a few years I stopped putting this photograph on my website. um, I want to I want to say that this, like, all my couples are amazing. This couple is the nicest, most fun, awesome couple. I want to say that this photo means I was at the right place, and I thought quick enough to take a step forward so that the lehenga looked wide. But this photograph wasn't me. It was the groom taking the initiative of, he looked at me and he said, I'm going to pick her up. And he did it. I didn't direct them. I was just there at the right place. So after a while, and so after a while, I and everyone. Okay, so I'm going to come back to why I stopped putting this photograph on my website. Again, I was doing like things that were very different. That time, nobody used to do boat, like, yacht shoots. I was one of the first who started it. And I just want to say that every time I wanted to try a new idea, I would pay for my own pocket. I paid for this boat, and the couple was very unsure. Nobody had done it. They were like, "No, we don't know," and they absolutely loved it. Um, and yeah, so I was every time, and again, as you see, there was always connection, like emotion. There was always that element there in my photographs. This
Yeah.
is the Dutch tilt. Again, the clients never noticed it. Clients always are happy if you shoot them happy, and if you shoot them with their friends and family. But this tilt started showing up in 80% of my photographs. I started doing because I started getting stressed about shooting a lot more, just so that I didn't have to think about the composition. I started doing this with all my photographs. All. And it's not like the clients noticed, because at the end of the day, I was very good at finding moments of shooting happy photographs. So the clients never noticed it, but I had many, like, it was much later, and I'll explain when I stopped doing it. That I kind of messed up at a, like, at a photography skill level when I was doing this. So right off the boat, I have learned now when to do the Dutch tilt. I just want to say, but at that time, I was just doing it mindlessly. So my lesson over there to everyone is pick your mentors well and understand why they're doing a certain technique. If you do it blindly, you will have 3 years of weddings that you shot with a major mistake, and then you realize you cannot put up any of them because it's such a major mistake. So please learn from my mistakes. So again, there in this phase, um, I was learning composition. So again, mind. Again, I was learning knowledge. The mind was developing. Socially, I was becoming active. I contacted Wedding Sutra. Parthiv was really kind to me. That time, Wedding Sutra was just building up. I used to send my work out there. Um, I used to go for networking events to Wedding Sutra. I used to contact magazines and newspapers, and I used to contact. And I pretty much came in every single newspaper and magazine, because that time there were not many women photographers. I came from Bombay Times front page to Hindustan Times to the Week magazine. Every single, like, socially, I really made an effort to get my work out there. I was always posting on Facebook, also my personal Facebook as well as work Facebook, so people knew that I am a wedding photographer, or I shoot maternity and babies, and people who I knew were reaching out to me also. Uh, at an emotional level, I was now beginning to feel a little bit stressed. I was beginning to feel the pressure of, now I need to up my game. And and uh, and basically, also what started happening there is I started going through really bad experiences with traditional photographers. There was a lot of insecurity there, and I understand it, but it was very aggressive. I am an extremely soft-spoken, non-aggressive person, and it started taking a toll on me. Um, I have been physically abused, as well as someone to, uh, intimidate me, done something absolutely in the middle of a mandap. And I started realizing I cannot be shoot to safeguard myself. Um, and knowing that it was taking an emotional turn on me, I realized that I need to make some changes. So again, I unconsciously came back to this drawing board. In 2014, 2015, it was a difficult year. It was a year of growth and shooting a lot. It was a year of mistakes, but then certain things started to happen. I mean, the good part was I went to Ladakh with Jassi sir, but after that, um, things went downhill for me. And because of certain things, I had to stop taking work. Um, and that had a huge impact because at that time, everyone who had started in 2012 peaked. And I was speaking, I was getting amazing weddings. I started getting destination weddings, Samod Palace, all of that. And I had to shut down. It was heartbreaking because I loved my work, but um, but I just didn't have a choice. Um, so at this point, in terms of body, um, like I had in terms of body, I had no. What I also put under body is structure. I had no structure in my company. Like I used to just shoot and edit and put it into folders and send it. There was no structure. But I started thinking of I probably need to have some structure in the way I edit, and I did a proper editing workshop. Um, then in terms of mind, again, I was learning things socially because of certain things starting to happen. I stopped posting it anywhere. And pretty much, if you imagine the emotional part as a big, as a like all these components as balls, the emotional part became a huge ball. I went through severe depression, and I basically could not concentrate on anything else. I could not concentrate on my business. I could not think about art. Uh, I could not. I could not pick up a camera. But I am my father's daughter. So I never left any clients hanging. I just told clients I'm not going to be able to shoot because I knew I wasn't emotionally at the right place. The reason I'm being so open about sharing this is that I see many photographers not sharing, and wedding photographers not being able to share this part that we go through, that we are also human beings going through life. And even though we have to shoot one after the other, there will be times where things happen, life happens, depression happens, and unfortunately we are running businesses and it's difficult to stop. But I just want to put it out there, but that I did stop and I came back. And it was hard, but I have rebuilt my company and it is possible. So I just want to put that thought out there. Um, 2015-16 was again a huge uh, shift in my journey. Um, Silk Festival Goa, like I said, and
Can I interrupt you for a moment?
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's kind of uh, listening to you and your journey so far is quite enlightening. And there are a couple of thoughts that come to my mind, Shreya, that you say that you had a very kind of comfortable life, your childhood, that you had best of the education and you had lot of comfort in your house, your probably childhood and your early life. Though you had you did not have a kind of normal childhood because your parents are separated, but you still had a lot of comfort to look forward to. Now suddenly you find yourself into doing something for your livelihood that is putting so much of pressure on you that you have to learn a lot of new things. Learning a lot of new things is certainly not a challenge, but yes, you find yourself into challenging situations. You see that you are getting abused also in between you and the kind of person that you are. Yeah, it is very easy to get affected. It is very easy to get affected if you are any kind of person. But the kind of person that you are, I'm sure that the impact would have been huge and quite detrimental also. Did you ever think of quitting it and going back to something else which were more comfortable, maybe again back to advertising or back to maternity. I'm sure that that thought might have crossed. I'm not too sure, but yes, we want to know that.
So during these phases when the things that were happening, um, uh, I mean, this is something I guess unconsciously I had learned from my dad, that when you are going through something, if you see it, there are often solutions to things. And if you see it as a temporary problem which has a solution and you work on the solution, you can do it differently the next time. So, what I mean by that is that uh, like I am someone like um, who my tiny voice in my head when I'm not happy is actually a very big voice. And when I'm not happy, I'm also, I think I have that arrogance of my education and my family background. So I have that little bit of that arrogance where I will not tolerate it. Like I might be soft spoken, but at the same time, uh, I will not tolerate it. And I also am able to differentiate when it's something I am doing versus something that's being done to me. So often, my of course at that when something was happening to me, I used and I still I mean still happens to me. Like right after the incident, I'm just like and it happened till last year. Right after the incident, my instant because I'm so emotional and I'm very emotional. I wear my heart on my sleeve. My instant reaction is always like, I'm quitting this. I'm quitting this, and I did it after every wedding at times. I'm quitting this. I can't do this. I can't do this, and that's my absolute emotional reaction. Like I'm quitting this. This is rubbish. Like who do they think they are? And like how can they do this to me? And then once the emotion subsides, like I always come down to it and I see it as a problem. Now, once I see it as a problem, the solution has been my contracts. I tell a client, my contract says I will not have any other team. And I build it into my contract. And not only like often people don't understand that people just have a contract in wedding photography and they say, huh, the contract is there, but they don't walk through the contract with their client. I sit with my client and I will walk through point by point and I will enunciate things that where through my voice they know I will not tolerate it. My contract now has that if there is abuse to me or my team people, I will walk out of the wedding. So clients then become see to it that they protect me. They tell their family and like there's people in charge of seeing that nothing happens to me. Um, and I have clients who often like feel like why do you have this in your contract? They almost feel offended. And I've explained it to them. I've told them the incidents that have happened, and they are extremely sympathetic and understanding, and they completely understand, and then they start protecting. So I feel like as emotional people, yeah, absolutely, that's it,
I
quit.
think,
But
and
when
yeah, you're saying
sorry,
something.
sorry, go ahead. No, but I feel like there are solutions to some things, or at times you'll still, and that's one thing about weddings that I want to say right away. You can safeguard yourself in multiple ways, but when you go into any wedding, whether that's a fancy palace wedding, whether that's a home wedding, whether that's a simple simpler wedding, every wedding comes with their own challenges. So moment as you keep evolving as a wedding photographer, if you bring that in your mindset and say that, hey, you know what, this is just a challenge, we'll figure it out. It definitely helps you a lot. That's been a huge learning for me. It doesn't come to me naturally. My natural instinct is like, okay, I don't want to do this and cut. But I have seen a lot more teams who deal with it in a much more mature manner, and that's because they deal with it with this mindset. They have grown. So yeah, I would want to be like that. Please go ahead.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, please.
But but yes, if you ask my husband, I have tantrums after most weddings where I'm like, I can't believe this happened, and this happened, and like, after the contract, how could this happen? And then when I calm down, and of course after my own wedding, I realized that, weddings are hard to plan. Like, it's sad for the bride and groom to take care of you, also to take care of your team and take care of 500 guests, and the politics between the two families. So I've become a lot more empathetic with clients after my own wedding, for sure. So yeah, anyways, so I think wedding photography teaches you a lot. This is something I just want to say right away. It's a field that teaches you much more than any field. Like, it teaches you human behavior, complex emotions, complex relationships, and I don't think any genre of photography teaches you this. And I can absolutely say with confidence that um, wedding photography, if you are involved in it completely, will change you as a human being, will make you a better human being. um, and I always say this. So yeah. um,
So true. So true.
so 2015, 2016 Silk Festival, the festival was amazing. I am trying to get Sefi to put the videos up online, because that festival was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. The speakers, two-man studio, Frank Boutanet, Susanna Barbara, all of them were just fabulous. The workshops I took, one was with two-man studio, Erica Mann. She taught, like, her workshop was brilliant. They have a toolkit in terms of lighting, and off camera flash, and I mean, among the other things that she taught, that toolkit definitely helped me, because at that time I still wasn't comfortable with the speed light and mag mods and all of that. And that time the mag mod had the concept of the mag. Everyone who doesn't know, mag mod is, um, I don't have my mind on you. But attachments, magnetic attachments to your on-camera flash. They come with, a bulb and mag gels for creating light. And if you are in wedding photography in India, or anywhere in the world right now, most probably you will have to own a mag mount eventually. Um, just because they're portable and easy to use and easy to set up, and great for interesting lighting and interesting doing something interesting when you have nothing there to do. I also did a workshop with Jen Wang. Jen Wang is comes under the category of fine art wedding photography. Now, this isn't your typical definition of fine art, but this genre is called fine art. This was started by the photographer called Jose Villa. He used to shoot with a camera called, he is shooting. He recently shot also Priyanka Chopra's wedding along with Jinsu. I mean, they as a separate team. Um, and basically, he's the one who pioneered this fine art wedding photography. They most of these photographers shoot on film. They are like bright, very dreamy photos. And I have been a fan of this style for years. I love Villa's work, and there are many photographers in that genre. There's one called Elizabeth Messina, and my luck that um, Sefi got Jen Wang, who's also one of the popular people in that genre. The problem being, we don't have the best developing places in India for film. So I was struggling with how, and of course, most of our weddings are in the night. So I couldn't figure out in my head um, how I was going to do this. I couldn't figure it out, like how I was going to shoot film when most of our weddings, and shoot this style of work when most of our weddings are in the night. But I just wanted to learn it, and I learned a lot. I learned basically the theoretical part, and an understanding of fine art work, which definitely influenced me during this workshop, during this festival. The other thing I want to say about so the other thing about the Silk Festival was, apart from all the technical and all of that, it was honestly the technical learning and all of that, because most of the speakers did not speak just technical. They spoke about their journeys, their life. the way they see things. It became a spiritual workshop. It became a workshop where you went on a spiritual journey with all these speakers, and it moved you at a much deeper level. So I think so. This was one of my photos with the couple that you see on the screen. This was one of the photos that I created in Genuine's workshop. It was shot on digital, but then I figured a way of emulating film. And all these photos that you can see, this is when my current style that you see, which is this bright, like, very bright, um, uh, very fresh, very dreamy, moody, romantic. This is when the style developed. And these two words came to me, that my brand has to be about minimal and meaningful. That it should be about minimal photos, and but the photos should still have meaningful, as in the emotions. That's why you see the emotions are still there, because the emotions was always a main part for me. So this is when my brand then moved to the next phase, which means I let go of my logo. My current logo is now Seed of Life. I let go of my, even though my red feet was like, I was known that Shreya Sen Photography, and that logo became so, um, like I had done so much of a branding exercise with that logo that people immediately used to recognize my work because of that logo. But I had to let it go because I knew that this is my next journey. um, and I rebranded. I threw out all my photos in my Instagram. And even if you see my Instagram and you scroll all the way down, you'll be able to tell when I had a sudden. It was a switch for me. Like it just switched. And the other reason I had the switch was I realized everyone at that time was shooting this shoot for highlights, dark photos, this dark editing, and it wasn't the kind of work I loved. So I was like, why should I be like everyone else? I can just do what I love. And I just started. I didn't, and before that, I was always shooting to make people happy, or to put up photos on Instagram that did well, or to put up, photos that won awards. And I just completely, or that wedding blogs liked, and I just completely stopped doing all of that. I just put up photographs that I loved, and that I could relate to. And if you see my Instagram, the photos that I put up is just what I love. Um, I also started. This is thanks to Bridal on India. She's a bridal stylist. Thanks to her, I started shooting these beautiful editorial shoots that she was producing and styling, and I got like almost a canvas to try the style out. So a lot of my work is thanks to her giving me this canvas where I could try the style of editing, the style of work, this kind of minimalistic feel, which was romantic and all of that. And then I started getting weddings in that year, and again this was influenced a little by seeing, and this photograph won international awards and all of that. But and it was influenced by because of silk, the talks at Silk. I had started noticing light. I had started being a lot more intentful in in my compositions, because that is something, as you keep evolving, the photographers talk about shoot with intent. And I started shooting with intent and creating this kind of work. This was the first wedding where I also started doing this fresh kind of edit, this very the kind of edit I was doing in my these editorial kind of portraits. I started trying to translate it even in my wedding work. And um, I also, this is from the same wedding, but again, I started noticing light. I started, noticing, playing with light. This is all thanks to Erica's workshop. I started fiddling with the mag mode, and trust me, that's been hard for me, like the off-camera flash and all of that. But I at least started understanding it and noticing it and experimenting with it, rather than keeping it only uh, on my camera. So again, back to this phase, what started happening in this phase was my mind was learning further advanced techniques, whether that was advanced techniques of light, advanced ways of looking at things. And then I was beginning to put it in the body, as in I was beginning to put it in practice through doing these other kinds of shoots. Social, now this is where I'm an introvert. I think Jassi Sir knows that. I was very quiet in the Ladakh trip, but I'm great one on one. And the huge thing that happened at Silk was I met other wedding photographers. I met amazing people, amazing, talented photographers. I had a great time with them. I started learning from them, and I started knowing the wedding photography community. And there's some brilliant people. I just have to say, the wedding photography community, a lot of them in India are just awesome. They're talented, they're really interesting people, they're fun. um, and I started going into that social aspect. Social, also my Instagram page changed. I started working a lot on my Instagram page, because this was the year when people started getting work through Instagram. Emotional, I think uh, I became a lot more calmer at this point. Like I became calmer, uh, where because I started feeling that I know the kind of work I want to do, and that makes me happy. Now this is where the spiritual, like, really, like, started to the if you imagine a flower really started to grow, because I started to ask very difficult questions, that what are the kind of photographs that make me happy. um, do I only and uh, who do I want to be in the next 10 years, and all these really, and the thing is, the spiritual part is really difficult. But I think at this point is when it kind of slightly opened the door for me even more. Sorry, Jassi, so I know we don't have much time, but I'm gonna try my best to get through.
This is getting interesting. So I think,
Okay.
don't look at your watch. Let us continue.
Okay, so then I wasn't taking that many weddings in that year, but whatever weddings I took, I was inculcating my new. No, so the other thing that happened at this wedding, she's my favorite bride. Um, because I changed my Instagram, the other thing that started happening was also I started getting brides and families who had a very different refined taste, who were like who were artists, or like just thinkers and just different. And she's a writer. She's written a book recently. She was very poetic as a person. She is poetic as a person, and even just she's just gorgeous and beautiful. But the important part of the other shift that happened at this wedding was, because it was a huge wedding, it was in Suryagarh. I realized I have to be open to start shooting with a team. And I looped a friend in, and I was lucky that Arjun, one of my friends, who's an amazing photographer right now, who's creating kick-ass work in the lockdown, he said, "Okay, let me help you out," and he came on board, and he helped me out for this wedding. And I have been shooting with him for a couple of years, and he's taught me a lot. So just in terms of, I started learning how to work in a team, and that's what started happening at this point. That in terms of the body, I started thinking about structuring a team, and thinking of myself not just as an individual, but as a company, as an entity. And even though I didn't know how to direct a team yet at that point, but I had opened the door of the body of Shreya Sen Photography, not to just be a single entity, but as a company. So that's when they started at this point. Then 2016 and 17, because that thought had come into my head that I am not, like, I've been working on the creative side. Uh, i have been um, i have been developing my voice, and I feel like right now I just need to work on that. Get Pepped started. Get Pepped is a festival, and even after that, Sefi again had another workshop in Bangalore, and I attended that. That was also great. But Get Pep was started by Joseph and Joshua Radek. Um, and again, it was great. Like, there were again amazing speakers. But one of the workshops at that point, I knew that. And the thing with a lot of these festivals and workshops, and when you get into that learning mode, um, you you get a lot. You get a ton of information when you go for these festivals, and you're overwhelmed because you feel like you've gone empty and you've come back like in with a bucket which is full till here, and now you have to figure what you need to take from that bucket and apply it to your work. And that is the difficult part, when you come back with this knowledge and you need to put it back into your work. Um, and at that point, I knew that I what I needed to give back, get like apply into my work, was the business side. It was something, even though I've, like I said, I've grown up in a house where my dad has always been in the corporate field. I've always, in a way, I've rejected it so much. Like, I keep saying, no, no, I am an artist. I don't know anything about business, and I keep saying it. At that time, I kept saying it. I wasn't understanding the importance of business of in photography. And I just want to say this right away, guys. It's like wedding photography. When you start off, might be about the art, but eventually you have to integrate it and integrate the business part of it. You have to, in order to sustain, you have to. And for me, Joshua's workshop was just really helpful. They both are really, Joe and Joshua, like, they both are really structured guys, like, um, and uh, and I feel that at that time that really helped me. Um, so while I was continued creating and developing my art side by transforming, like, this, the sari photo is my editorial shoot, but the other image is my bride. Like, I was trying to do this kind of work even in my uh, weddings as well as in my portraits, and I was trying to do minimal work with my clients. So I started getting weddings like this that year. I'm sorry I cannot show a lot of my weddings, because I just want to say right away that eventually, as I kept going, and I think this is an important time to say this, when I started shooting, I was shooting for myself. And then when I kept going, I realized I was shooting for too many people. I was shooting for making the bride happy, making the bride's parents happy. I was shooting for awards. Like, anyone who's getting to wedding photography, there's Fearless Awards. We all love Fearless Awards. It's extremely inspiring work. It puts your work on a global platform, and they are like, some of the work is really inspiring. All the work is really inspiring, and then there was Better Photography Awards, and there was Wedding Sutra Awards, then there were magazines and blogs, and I started shooting for just too many people. And what ended up happening was, the photographs in the beginning that I used to take that made me happy, I just stopped taking. Um, and and Eventually, I won a lot of awards with wedding photography. I came in a lot of magazines, newspapers, and blogs. And every time, and I used to make a list. Every year I used to start off and say that I'm going to win Fearless Award this year. I used to make it like targets. And I realized every time I achieved it, it used to, I used to not feel joy. But every time a client messaged me, or like a client's mom or dad messaged me saying, you made us cry with your photographs and we don't know how to thank you, that like filled my heart. And even when and the second thing was, when I realized, when I photographed something, like, for example, like this beside, like this photograph where her dress is flying, when I photographed something which was my style and my kind of work, which was graceful and beautiful, and had a bit of romance and softness, uh, when I shot something like that, that made me happy. So eventually, I brought down my work to, I want to create work that makes my clients happy, and I want to create work that makes me happy. Because of which, like at times, I have a lot of clients who say that, we don't really want to share our photos on social media. And I go like, okay, that's fine with me. That has affected my business. I'll be very honest about that. Um, but at the same time, these same clients go and tell five of their friends, and I've got work within a month. So it's just affected the marketing of my business, but that's why a lot of the work I show is my editorial work, or just photos that like say something about my style. If you see my Instagram, I made my Instagram about a feeling. Like, so my whenever my brides call me, they say your Instagram makes me happy. It makes me feel like you are like a romantic, and you have this beautiful grace about you. And so they are connecting to me through my photographs, and that is important to me. And moment my clients come to me, I of course send them my entire, like an entire wedding which has all kinds of photos. And so they know that I do everything. But when my Instagram window is like, to connect to me, I need you to connect to me as a person, and that's when you will come to me, and we get to the next phase of whether all the details of the wedding. So even like these are during, I mean, after Pep and Silk and learning about light, I started trying all these cool techniques. I'm not going to go into the techniques. Everyone wants to know the cool techniques. Sometimes it's Prism, sometimes it's Magmod. These are all tool kits. They win you awards, but I feel like photography has become about these images, rather than about that we are shooting families, we are shooting emotions, we are telling the stories of a legacy for a family. We are showing the way we see things, and for me that is more important than these tricks are amazing to learn. I do practice it sometimes, and I put it in my set just so that I can upskill myself. But I don't make my photography, I don't show this work on my page, because I actually don't want clients who come to me, and this is where I want to come back to that, the flying the langa, the why I don't put that image on my website, because I realize the clients who are coming to me, seeing that photo or seeing the paint fight photo, was saying मुझे कुछ cool चाहिए, कुछ अलग चाहिए, and you're doing cool photos. And even though I do all this, like I'm still doing all this, and these are like this photo, like these are very typical fearless like hands. I was trying mag mode, and the cool photos I was doing, like with the reflections and all of that. But I don't put it up on my page. I am very blatant about saying I am not a cool person. I want to create photos that are classics. I stay away. I'm not a fan of trendy. I'm not a fan of Bollywood over the top images, and that's me. I'm not insulting anyone else who does it. I think it's amazing if that's your style. But I know what I'm not. I'm not a cool person. I'm someone who's warm and someone who likes classics and simple photographs. So, and I just want to say, my when Arjun shoots with me, I'm so happy because he's the cool guy. He's the cool, yo, awesome. He has that cool energy. So I thankfully don't have to be cool. Um, but like I am very honest with my clients, and I want my clients to have the right expectations that at the end of the day, a chunk of their photographs is going to be memories. It's going to be photos they can hand down to their family, to their next generation. They're going to be emotive images, and they're going to be meaningful photos. For me, that is important. And until date, all my clients feel that. So I know I'm doing my job, and I'm doing my job well, and I'm being honest to myself at the same time. So again, at this point, when I was doing all these kind of photos in 2016, I was developing the body. And body I mean by like just structuring my company, um, I was changing the way I deliver to my clients and give a different experience. In terms of the mind, I was learning more about lighting, and even though I'm still learning, I feel like I still have a long way to learn. I'm scared of I still am scared of my Godox and of my continuous lighting and my flashes, and I don't want to be scared of it. So I'm still learning. Socially, Instagram I reduced a lot, but I started posting with intent. I started posting a lot of who I am. Emotionally, yeah, this is an interesting thing that happened. Emotionally, uh, I started getting because I was managing teams at this point, slowly managing teams. I started getting a little stressed, and but spiritually, like there was a little, that little voice in my head was starting to become louder. That are you really shooting what makes you happy? And um, yeah, that voice was getting louder. So we're almost there, guys. I'm sorry I've taken so much time, but we're almost there. The Pretty much through this year. So 2018 to 2020, I started expanding my business. I've always loved films, so I just knew I could do it. Like if I just got the right people on board, I knew I could do it. Last year, last season, I made wedding films. Again, I can't show any of it because all the wedding films I show are private. I wish I could because we made some amazing films. Um, Clients were thrilled, um, but I was miserable. I was absolutely cranky, shouting, screaming. It Because our team size was a lot bigger, and one thing I realized was, one, you have to be like, there are many things you have to manage when you start managing a team. You have to also be creatively present to create amazing photos. Then you have to coordinate your team and tell them where to go when. Means you have to do the production. Then you have to figure random things that start going wrong, like your team has put a power bank into his bag, and his bag has been loaded off the plane. So then you start dealing with just a lot more factors which go way beyond photography, and these are all true stories, guys. um, and because you're dealing with a team, your client also becomes a little difficult because they have to put up and feed, not just one person but maybe 10 people or eight people. And then things start happening, like there's no food, and this has happened. There is no food for the team. There are no hotel rooms, and it all of that started really taking a toll on me. Like for me, like because I'm very particular about how anyone who works with me is treated. I started feeling guilty that these are team members who work with me and are going through this. I was stressed all the time. I could not create, like when you're dealing with all these weird production issues, and I think someone would be able to handle it, but I just I'm such an emotional person that I was so stressed, and that emotional ball was so big again that I wasn't creating. I wasn't doing the tilt photos, but I was creating very mindlessly. And I didn't want that. I wanted to be present for my brides. I wanted to be present for the families, because most of my clients, even because I take very few weddings, they treat me with a lot of love, and I want to give back that love and respect and through their photos. So none of the clients, like, I mean, everyone was happy with the photos, but I wasn't happy. Like I didn't know whether I could sustain like this for the next 10 years, like being so highly stressed, having so much anxiety, panic attacks. And I knew I needed, like if I needed to do this again in the next season, I had to work it out from my end. um, I was creating work like this. I was also second shooting, uh, and again detailed shots. Um, and yeah, I started. No, so this is and so basically this is when my spiritual journey started in 2018, 2019. So last year, and I was like, okay, what do I do? Like, I want to just stop being so angry and upset. What do I do? And I started going back to the basics. I started second shooting with people, so that in that space, when you're at times when you're with like photographers and who are friends, like who allowed me to do what I like to do. And they're photographers like Aviraj and Kismat, and these are amazing photographers who just like have faith in you and tell you just go do whatever makes you happy. And they allowed me the space to just create, and that's when I created images like this. And honestly, these images would not be possible without someone saying that just go do what you do and we'll cover whatever. And I'm really grateful for meeting such friends and photographers in my life. um, I started doing more of fashion work because I felt extremely happy during doing this. I found more clients on my own, and these kind of I realized I was super happy doing these shoots. I didn't feel that stressful. I could create. It was only about me and not a big team like me handling multiple people. It was just me. So I felt I could bring in my voice here, and I managed to take this. I started growing this part of my work. I went back to my basics. So not street, but I knew that I wanted to shoot stories, and I went walking around Mumbai and I shot my Machi Wali in Kolaba, and I walked and I started like, and she used to tell me stories, and I just started looking for stories. And my style is not that photojournalistic way. It's still influenced by travel editorial portraits that you see in Condé Nast. So I continued sticking to my style, but I looked for stories within that, and I went back to shooting on the street. So this part of my journey, the spiritual part, started. It was ignited by the emotional, and I started my spiritual journey. Socially, I was growing at this point socially on so like on um, and on social media because of the other work I was doing. I've been doing the ask for help, and somewhere like in order to just deal with my emotions and deal with things I was going through, I just figured that I want to do things that make me happy, and helping others makes me happy, and I started doing that on my Instagram. Mine, I was learning the Flash and I started learning other things. Like I started learning social media, body. I think a little bit of the switch was happening towards from SLR to mirrorless cameras. So little bit I had to go back to the basics, like go back to learning again the manual of a camera. So I was learning that, but I also, because I had started shooting films, I started learning filmmaking. I started learning editing. I started again the practice of it, the body, the practice, the habitual. I started practicing it by shooting NGO films, because again I always wanted to shoot for NGOs. I started shooting for schools, and these were films. And I learned editing, I learned Adobe Premiere, I learned just how to construct a story and make a film. So that's what I was learning at this point. But here, in terms of, if you imagine these as circles, the spiritual part really started growing at this point. Um, Now I'm coming back to the present day. 2020, these past 3 months is like, it's been difficult for all of us. And I started this lockdown like everyone else, like okay, let's do it, let's start, let's do workshops, let's do this, let's do that. And then suddenly I stopped and I was like, you know what, maybe I need to take this time to do something for myself, because I am normally someone who is always doing for people. I've also been going through some personal things. My mom is unwell and very unwell. And it was tugging on my spiritual journey to just come to terms with that. So I felt that tug very like as like it was something tugging and telling me, no, you need to do this work now. It's difficult work, but you need to sit down and face your past and face all of this. So I started meditating in the morning, and things happened. A lot of things have been happening. But within that space, I started creating work which is really personal, which was things I was feeling spiritually. And these are series. You'll see these series on my Instagram. I'm not going to go into details of it. Even like very personal feelings, like my mom is going through ALS. She cannot write anymore. She cannot speak. She cannot eat. She eats through a tube. And for me to bring that into my work, this was very hard to do. Um, but I wanted to see whether I could bring that, all the emotions and everything I was feeling, and seeing my mom go through, whether I could bring it in my photographs. And I just want to say right away, guys, this is extremely, like, when you first of all sit with your fears and you face them, and you deal with them. It is an ugly, dark place. There are no teachers here. Like, whenever you're learning through workshops and learning through people, through YouTube, someone's holding your hand. When you enter into this space, nobody is holding your hand. You have to sit with it. You have to be open to whatever comes. And I think things came, and I created work like this. Again, I don't know how this work is going to translate into my weddings, but this is where I've evolved to currently. Just bringing my vulnerability and bringing my life experiences and things, um, that are almost dark, onto into my work. And weddings are a happy place. Maybe clients will not want to see vulnerability in their photographs, but maybe I don't know. I have to see how this translates into my wedding work. Um, so yeah, so in terms of this circle again, the spirituality bubble is what became massive. Um, it's been changing my life, and one of the things that happens, and the breakdown of all these things, and one of the things that happens when you go into the spiritual realm, I realized, is that you realize that you, like, it's almost like you sit, I guess that's what happens, right? Like, people sitting under a tree, and then suddenly they reach somewhere, and then they come out and they write a book, or they, they come to people and they say that, let me take you along. And which is where I feel like a lot of people, uh, who reach this place, start teaching, because they've been sitting under this tree and they've learned some things, and now they want to take people along. So that is the other thing that has happened in this part of my journey, there, where I've been feeling a calling for education, for learning, um, and for taking people along, through, taking, whether that's in photography, whether that's through like just personal things. But I've been feeling that calling. I just want to also say just a warning, because a lot of people, and I kind of understand two warnings. One, I think a lot of us are kind of put, in India mostly, are put off by this spiritual world, because it feels very voodoo, like, well, it feels like, it can't happen to us. It feels like, it's too exotic, all these sadhus in the orange avatars, and or you have these guys with very soft voices taking you. So I just want to, like, clear that. I think, and this is something I have learned. I think everyone, every single person is capable of getting on a spiritual journey. You don't have to be a sadhu and sit under a tree. I have sat at home, on my dog's pillow and meditated, and this has happened. On my dog's pillow, I just want to say that he comes and tries to push me out of it every day. But I have done this not under a tree, not gone to Vanvas, none of that. So, and I think we are put off a lot by a lot of gurus, and unfortunately people who probably had this kind of awakening, but misused it and broke people and misused their power, and the ego came in the way, or like all of that. If you see Osho story or Netflix and all of that, right? And they got fascinated with the money and the materialistic part, and it just got put off by it. um, but I do hope I can, like, convince you that your own spiritual awakening will take you to a place, um, where your photography can change, your life can change. um, it'll give you the strength to deal with a lot of things in your life. It has helped me in these past 2 months. I can't, and some, I mean, I'll go into details someday, not today, I've already spoken too much. um, But and to create like work like this, like, and this the kind of work I feel when I look at this work, the reason it makes me happy is because I feel I wasn't. I was trying techniques which maybe I had seen on Pinterest, but at the same time, I know this is my work. It came from a deeper place, um, and when they talk about your voice and your that comes from your life experiences, your emotions, your pain, I think you have to be willing to go into the spiritual realm to see what comes out, and what comes out can be something completely new that nobody has seen, but you will connect to that work. So I hope you're open to trying going into this place. um, so just I'm ending up, but I'm just going to say two things. For anyone starting off, even if you ask me, I don't want you to, as you saw that the spiritual thing came much later. If you're asking me, okay, I'm just starting off, what do I do? I would say just these three lines: shoot, experiment, play, start building your portfolio. um, One of the things Divyam says that I want to repeat, uh, like, when you're starting off and you're going to people to learn, really go, be empty and go. Like, I think it's amazing that Divyam said that.
Right.
One of the things that happens in a lot of my workshops, and for a lot of people who are listening to someone, they think that I have come only for this information. I have come only to ask you where you have put that light and what is your camera setting. And moment they get that information, the rest of the information feels like junk and they walk away. I would urge you to not come into a learning space feeling ये सब तो पता है लेकिन ये बोलो, or that you know all this but just tell me this part. Like, I would urge you to come empty, because even if you know it, um, and a lot of the things that happened with me, with the listening to these conversations and these workshops and these talks and these festivals, was a lot of when photographers are way ahead in the journey, they said I should take a lot of notes. I'm like a note taker. I have, like, I can't even show you how many notebooks I have. And I would write it down, and it would be a really simple sentence, like there's nothing profound in it. And as I would progress in my journey and I would come back to that book, that sentence would just change something at a very foundational level in my work, and it would take my business somewhere else. So I urge you to be open, take notes, because you never know what piece of information would connect to you at a later point in your evolution and journey. um, so yeah, that's what I would say. And please build your portfolio. Again, just to add, please stop, like, I think it's really like, if you can, don't tag like, photographers you love on your Instagram page. I see everyone doing that. If you really want feedback, send an email, send your beautiful portfolio to them, request them to guide you, like plan a like, sign up for a mentorship program with them. Do it nicely, don't do these shortcuts. There are no shortcuts in photography. I just want to say, like, there's only hard work. Instagram makes it feel like there's shortcuts, but at the end of the day, your work will say that you've taken a shortcut, and so stop taking shortcuts. um, so this is a very complex sentence, and I just hope you read this later on in life. Time spent in either developing the art, the yin side, I call it the yin and yang. Time spent developing the yang or the business side is what is going to define the kind of artist you will be known for. Uh, like, for example, like, if you decide that, no, actually, I just want to be a businessman, so then you put in all your effort in networking and social media, where your photography is not that bad at all, but you put more effort into the business, so then you become known to be a business driven wedding photography company, and that's fine. Supposing you decide that, no, I want to create absolutely exceptional fine art kind of photographs, and you put all your effort into the art side and developing, like, these beautiful photographs that look like paintings. And maybe you don't do networking that much, but because your art is so beautiful. An example of this is Naman Verma, HOTC, Harshin, Jammu.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so their work is just so beautiful, and of course I'm sure they do social media marketing and all of that, but that yin is so strong that automatically business comes because of that, and they become an artist driven wedding photography company. Like that, there are different models. These are just two. There are many ways of permutation combinations of this. There is no one way. I just want to say that out loud. You can't. You can be you can be both, and very strong artist as well as that. But my point being, you have to integrate both. Um, so to define the kind of artist you will be known for, but in order to run it as a successful sustainable business, you have to integrate both.
Yeah.
And I think sustainable is the key word here. You're not going to be do it one season. You're going to be doing this every season, 10, 20, 50 weddings a year. And to keep it sustainable, if your business side, if you're not organized, if you don't have systems in place for recording your finances, if you don't know your camera, if you don't have that yank side tightened, if you don't have a workflow in place, your company is going to fall apart very quickly, and you need to think about this. um, so that now comes an interesting part. In order to help you guys understand where you are in where you are at in terms of this holistic model, I have been working on this assessment test, which if you fill in, it will send you a report. If you want to explore, so what this means is that you decide, like I said in the beginning, like decide where you want to be. So if you write that right now I just want to learn the basics, and you do the assessment test, it will, uh, based on where you are at now, uh, and the holistic, the five circles, it will plot out for you that these are your gaps, um, in terms of where you are at right now, and this is what you need to learn to reach your current destination. And if you decide that no, now I've done the basics, now I want to take it one step further and learn a little more complex, complex business or complex art, then again you write that in, and then you'll receive the gaps again in that assessment. I'm still like building this. It's not a perfect assessment, guys. I'm going to be very honest about it. But it's and basically, if you want to explore the results in depth, you can sign up for a mentorship session with me where I walk you through the results and recommend your next steps. The assessment sheet will only tell you that these are your gaps. The solutions for it, you will have to sign up for a mentorship. The ways to bridge that gap based on where you are in the journey, and like maybe like other personal aspects which might not be in the assessment, um, you'll have to sign up for the mentorship session with me. I was hoping to set this up today, but it's a lot of work and I still couldn't do it. The website straightfromtheart.in is going to be up, and if you on the top there'll be something called the holistic model, and the assessment will be there. And under the holistic model will also be the mentoring session, which you can sign up if you want a mentoring session with me. And I hope this model makes sense to you. I know it might seem very convoluted, but I promise you it will help you in your journey as a wedding photographer or photographer. Um, Last of all, I want to say there are no limits to art. There are no limits to style. There is no one way to success. The truth is in the center, and we are all equidistant from it. I want to leave you on this note. Reason being that you're going to meet all kinds of mentors, all kinds of people who are successful in their own way. If anyone tells you do it only my way, tell them f you. There is no single way. It's you might find even your own way and pave a path for everyone else. But yeah, I just wanted to leave you with this note. Also know that success isn't dodging failure, it is going right through it. This is Erica Man, Two Man Studio. She has amazing things she always says in terms of what Jussie sir was saying, that every time something went wrong, I tried to dodge it by saying bus I quit. But when I sat through the emotion, through the uncomfortable part and came up with a solution, that's when I was successful in the next wedding. And I do want you to consider that, yeah, you will fail. You are going to fail. Let's just be very clear. Wedding photography is very complicated. There are many elements to it, many elements that will fall apart even when you know it perfectly. I promise you, all the best studios will tell you this, that even when they've shot 100 weddings, 200 weddings, the next wedding they go to, something goes wrong. And that doesn't matter if it's 100 crore wedding or a 50,000 rupee wedding. Like those things falling apart happen at every single level. um, so yeah, so before I get to the, I know I've taken too much time. If you want to get two questions, Jesse, so we can.
Oh, did you just a minute? Did you? Should I stop the sharing?
Yeah, sure. Let me start the channel.
All right. This was really amazing because I don't know what to say. This has been one of the sessions. It was not kind of a normal session. It was almost like a workshop, and it was like a master class where I learned a lot, and I must pinch myself right now to really wake up and see that did we really conduct this? This is amazing. This is amazing.
Thank you.
I don't know. I had a lot of questions. Whether they will, I'll be in a position to now even remember those questions and ask you right now. But yes, there are few things that come to my mind. Is that your journey has been in whatever way that you're attending, you're getting in, seeking inspiration, you're hungry for more knowledge and more inspiration. And you might not have said this, but this has really come across very loud and clear. And because and probably your transformation that is very visible is happened after Silk and Pep, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And and so uh, and that was quite drastic. That was phenomenal transformation that was happening. And you rightly also pointed out that what Divyam also talked about is that go empty. You just empty everything and then go there, and because you can't be choosy, you can't be picking at them. You're not that privileged. Don't go there as a privileged one that I'll know. I'll reject that and I'll pick only one, and then once I get that and I'm done and I'll come back home. That is how not you attend a workshop. And so um, um, after Silk, you met a lot of people during Silk and maybe Pep also. When you were there and when you after you came back from there, what was going in your mind, and how did you really, was it so easy to implement those changes? I'm sure you would have gone through another phase where you were trying to learn, you were trying to unlearn and learn and then implement. Maybe 2 minutes about that.
Yeah. So I just want to say, I mean, and people, if anyone attends, I think last year we had PepX also with Joe and Joshua. If you go for any of these workshops, like you come back feeling like this rush, like this intense emotion. And the first thing that I did was I made a list of everything I learned, everything. Like I listed it down in terms of a technical page, in terms of soft skills, in terms of just business tips, social Instagram tips. I just listed everything. Um, I did. You can't apply all. It's just very hard. But I always like I applied a few, like which I felt I needed at that point, which was just not there in my business at all. And the other thing was, when something like this happens, you have to you have to look for that empty canvas to recreate. And I started looking for that empty canvas, whether that was um, and whether that was like looking, finding designers whose work I liked, and I said, and then at that point, because I am learning, I'm like, you can pay me whatever. Like, and though I was in the business for a while, so I couldn't say free at that point. But I said, just a minimal account and amount, and let me create. So they gave me that empty canvas, um, and which helped me, um, which gave me the permission to try all this. So even in my house, I started asking friends like, "Can you come and like come shoot?" I started asking my maternity and baby clients that I've been wanting to do, and you'll see that in my recent maternity shoots also. Um, that would you mind if I just, so again I went back exactly to what I did in the beginning, where in the beginning it was just asking my friends, right, can I shoot your wedding? And I went back to that same technique where I started asking my friends like, do you mind, I want to shoot, just you can just so one of the things I haven't showed is, like, I showed my fine art kind of work, but the in that is the minimal part. The meaningful part I started doing the like, inspired by Kirsten Lewis. She had these one day in a life session, which is like you stay with a family for an entire day and just shoot, and it's completely journalistic. And I started shooting that. I wish I could show it, but we have an issue because there's a music in that which we don't have permission for. And I started doing that for my friends, and then that translated to clients asking. So again, I went back to the drawing board of exactly how I started weddings, where I asked friends like, "Can I shoot your wedding?" And they said yes. And either I charged them pittance or I didn't charge them. So I went back to the same thing and I said, "Can I do this?" And they didn't know what I was doing. They said, I just said, "I want to try this. Would you mind if I tried?" And they said, "Of course." And then I managed to create without any expectations. I didn't like, they didn't have any expectations of what I might create, and they were super happy. So that was the art part. The business part, and like, the other things like that, have had to do it slowly because it doesn't come naturally to me. So slowly, like, I see the benefit of it, and then I inculcate it within my systems, and that's how I've done it. But it's a slow process. It takes some, you have to decide like what is important at that time, and that changes as you keep going. Like, once you figure out one thing, then you can move on to the next thing. Like, that's how I do it. I know people who can do reform all of them at the same time, but for me, I want to do it well, so I would pick one thing, do it well, then fix the other draws kind of thing. So yeah.
This is amazing because what I've seen is that most people are not beyond a certain point when they start earning, when they are already on that career path that they have defined and they are feeling happy about whatever they are doing. It is very difficult to again put the brakes on and say that no, I want to learn, I want to implement new things, and for that I'm willing to sacrifice my earning. And one thing is thinking, and the other thing is really going and telling your client that I want my creative freedom. I want to create something, and for that, I am willing to forego whatever money that you're giving me, maybe some pittance or shoot for pittance, or maybe even for free that you said. And did this by doing this, you could have failed as well, and that fear might have gone through your mind that what if I fail? What if I'm not successful? What I'm trying to do? Because you come back from circle, you come back from anything similar, and you are overwhelmed and you are in a rush. Your mind is in a rush, and you want to achieve too many things. Things can go wrong. Everybody is a human being, and
I just want
yeah,
to add at that I was failing. Like, when I was trying it, I was failing. But again, like, back to the body part, right? It was like I knew that even when I started wedding photography, right, composition didn't come to me, and then I had to practice. So I brought the same method back. That um, I was failing, but then I was practicing, shooting, and I got better. It didn't magic. Like I said, I'm not naturally talented. Like for me, I put a huge emphasis on practice, on like doing it once, seeing where I went wrong, and even for, I mean, you're doing these amazing talks. Even I've been doing it on my channel. Even there, my first two episodes, I completely like I technically again because technical is hard for me. I made mistakes, but I again my attitude is very like I haven't practiced enough. It's okay, like I am going to fail. This is the first time I'm doing it. I am going to fail. But I've become comfortable with failure. I've become comfortable that okay, at least I know that I need work on this. I know I have to figure this out. So for me, that moment that happens, I feel better almost. I feel better that okay, I failed, and that's okay, but I tried. Yeah,
So in a way, what you're saying is that it is important to fail, but it is even important to fail forward.
yeah, absolutely.
Because you fail, you learn, and you fill that gap and move ahead. And probably you fail again, you still move ahead. You don't get stuck. You don't get dejected to an extent that you feel like quitting and going backwards. And I think failing forward is the right way to move ahead. I think.
But I just want to add in terms of that, Jesse. So I also want to add an extremely important point. Um, and I want to bring up like my times when I went through depression. Like I was failing, and because of the emotional weight of things happening in my life, I couldn't pick myself up for years and months. And I see that happening with many people also. So at times, I completely understand when people cannot do that, where they're going through depression, they've lost a parent, they have money issues, they have to take care of older people, they have to take care of their kids, and they can't just and their business is failing, but they can't just move on. Like they have to take care of that. So I just want to say that there was a huge part in my life where I failed and I sat on the floor and I continued sitting. I said, I cannot get up. I cannot get up. I've given up. And there's no ways I'm going to succeed and come back. And, now there's more competition. How am I, and I gave up. So, but, again, like, it's, I didn't have a backup plan. Like I loved photography, so it there was I was like okay, I won't be successful, but I need to create work. I love photography. So that is the reason I picked myself up. But I just want to say that it is hard at times. It is hard at times to move ahead.
You know,
But
I'm not as brave as you because let me be honest, I'm getting goosebumps right now because uh, I think I think whatever you were saying, I could relate to it because I have also gone through the same thing. I'm not an artist by birth, and I've shared this many on many forums. But then there's one thing that I think you've also done, and what I have also done is that we burned the bridges, and whenever we felt miserable, we had nothing to turn back to, and that was the only thing that you had to carry forward.
yeah,
And so eventually you pick up all the threads and somehow try and start making sense out of whatever had gone wrong and move forward. But one thing is that how important it is to really take breaks in between um, and 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 probably do photography for your own self, and not that you're not doing for your own self, but really uh, to move to go out without feeling any stress and leaving everything behind and enjoying the process of photography.
so I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring. Um, so a lot of us when we get into wedding photography because we are shooting such a huge such a chunk of photographs that on our holidays we just don't want to touch our camera. Like absolutely don't want to touch our camera.
Yeah.
And that's sad because which means that with our families and all we have only phone photos. And that started happening to me. And the other reason, if like the mistake I started doing was I was kind of giving in to this travel Instagrammer kind of language. And even on holidays, like my husband is not a photographer. He cannot shoot a straight photo. He has got screamed at. But I realized all my holidays became about me screaming at him, saying, "Just straighten the frame, straighten it." And even that became stressful, and holidays became stressful for both of us. So I was always screaming at him, like at one time, like he used to cut off my head, or he used to cut off my face, or like he was doing crazy things. But that's because he for him, like he likes enjoying a holiday. All this he doesn't like enjoying. So then I started realizing that I have to bring joy back outside of weddings in just regular things I do, which is why I remember like my trip with you to Ladakh, and
Wow.
I love that trip so much, and I remember it often because I feel like that was a trip where I created like I think you created a space that was just a happy space where I didn't feel the pressure to create for anybody but myself. Ladakh was beautiful. It was a peaceful environment, and when I look back at these photographs in this book, sorry I can't like show it because there's a light coming from the window, but the reason I made it into a book because I feel I created a lot of my best work during this trip, and the reason I could create it is because it came from joy. It came from being peaceful and happy, and being in an environment where other people like otherwise I'm always stressed if I go on a trip and people are waiting for me while I shoot, but here everybody was shooting, so I didn't feel that stress that oh my god, I'm people are waiting for me while I'm like shooting away. So I think there's a huge importance in just shooting for fun and doing it out of joy. And even mostly with wedding photography, I just want to say that everyone who's in the field, guys, you are going to experience burnout at multiple points. And it is important to take less than step away from weddings, step away from whatever you're shooting and start doing just what makes you happy. It can be animals, it can be food, it can be landscape, it can be birds, it can be sunsets. But when you feel that burnout, you need to come back to finding that place that makes you happy, because otherwise you're not going to be able to create. You're going to just be mechanically shooting. So absolutely, I agree that it's extremely important.
That's phenomenal. I think there's a lot of learning. So you've been talking a lot, so I would not bother you much. So let us get on with the final tip that we wanted to share.
Okay, are there many people on the YouTube that I?
Not much now. People because it's actually 2.5,
Yeah.
closer to 3 hours. So
Okay, sorry.
yeah, but we can.
Okay, so I'm gonna switch off my video because I just don't want my I don't want anyone to be distracted by my face at this point. There is I would ask you, Jesse, so if you can join me also on this.
Okay.
Um,
Stop my video as well.
no, you can keep it on. That's fine.
Okay.
So anyone who's online, if you open Spotify, or I mean, this is just a song I like, but if you open because we can't play music on our talk, there's a song called "Breathing Space" by Sacred Earth. Um, if you can just play this in your background while you're doing this, if I can ask you to just sit quietly, sit like comfortably, either on the ground, on the sofa, just your legs crossed, your hands relaxed, and your eyes closed. Um, and just relax, and you can keep your eyes closed, and we'll just go through this. This won't take, I'm not going to do a longer version of this, just a very quick 5 to 10 minutes. I don't know how long I'll do it. I'm going to do it very spontaneously. Um, but yeah, so Jesse said we can ask you to close your eyes. If you feel weird, you can close your shut your video. Um, okay. So I do hope you keep the music on, guys. Whoever's tuned in, it will really help you. If whatever relaxed music you want. Okay, so I'm just gonna start. So I just want you to close your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose and feel your breath going down your throat. Take a deeper breath in and feel your breath relaxing your shoulders, your fingers, traveling through your body, your legs, loosening up any parts that feel heavy and relaxing you completely. I want you to now imagine your happy place. It could be in the mountains, it could be by the ocean where you can hear the sea, it could be in the meadows, it could be surrounded by tall pine trees. You hear the birds, you hear the nature around you, and you feel at peace. I want you to remember this place every time you need a safe place. Every time you feel stressed, when things aren't going your way, when it feels like there's no hope, and you wish to just come back and give yourself a space which is empty, where there's love, where you can forgive and you can restart. I want you to take your hand and place it on your heart and just say that I feel love in this place, that I can love myself and treat myself well with kindness and forgiveness. While you're doing this, there'll be many thoughts that keep coming. Just address them and tell them that you will address them later and come back to this space. Take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out. You need to know that this place is available to you whenever you want it, and that everything has a solution and everything you can get through. As you feel this calmness settling, you can remain in this space, slowly come back, just wriggling your toes and fingers and open your eyes slightly. We are done with
This
uh,
was
because-
this
mm,
was amazing. This was really great. This is something I know. I remember having spoken to you that day that after your talk about with Rafiq sir, that there is so much of calmness in the way you speak and the way you talk and you ask take an interview. And I said that to you that I feel that I'm a joker on the block who's asking, who's always over enthusiastic and is scratching the body and asking how are you doing that. And I thought that I look childish, and you said that it has happened recently and because of the meditation that you do. And I'll probably connect with you off this session and probably ask you more about it because I
I
think
just
that I
wanted
need
to share this because this is my secret tool that I've been work,
important. This is,
and I wanted to share this for wedding photographers to come back to that point that weddings are stressful. It's Indian weddings are chaotic.
yeah, they're chaotic.
You are managing your team. You're going to be managing people, and if I mean this is just meditation, but if you manage to um, have a practice, whether that it's a repetitive practice, so it can be cycling, it can be cooking, it can be running, and even running can be a meditative practice. If you build that into your system, into your lifestyle, you'll always start your day from that peaceful place. So you'll always be in control. And a lot of wedding photography has to do with being in control of the situation, being in control of your emotions, being in control of who you are, being in control of your team. So this was just my secret tool that I wanted to share. I This is just one way. There are many ways. Again, I'm saying there is no dogma. There are many ways to get to the center of truth. And this has helped me. That's why I wanted to share this. And I'm glad you felt. Uh,
No, it is, and I told this to you. So I have no words right now. I'm failing for words right now, and it has been such a. It was a different session. It was all about photography. It was all about how to become successful if that is the goal, and whether you really at any point of time even call yourself you can call yourself a success or it's always an ever evolution that continues to happen in your life, in your journey, and every time you reach your destination that you think is your destination and you realize that this was just another stopover and you need to move ahead, and to move ahead you need to rejuvenate and you need to reincarnate as an individual, and you again start getting back to basics. So it was quite a revelation this session, and I feel that people today, because of the timing, people were not there too much. But I think people should come back, and I'm going to advocate this, and I'm going to share this in many forums that come and watch this session if you have to, because this was phenomenal. Thank you, Shreya, for doing this.
for giving me, for being the way you are, so that I can speak, like knowing that the right person will understand what I'm saying. I just want everyone to know that straight from the art.in is where that assessment will be up and the mentorship sessions. Please do check it up. I will send Justin sir the link moment it is up so that he can have it in the YouTube link too. But yeah, I just hope that this was of value to people listening in, and I made a I made a difference to how you think about wedding photography. That is not just tips and tricks and lights, and it is
Absolutely.
all of that.
Yeah. And I always say this. I always say this. Um, Technology is physics, and physics can never stir your heart, can never stir your emotion. How you use that physics through your emotions that you want to capture and convey, and the path you take to achieve that is what is going to stir the emotions of everybody who's watching your images and look viewing your images. And I think that is phenomenal. And the fact that you are shooting so many private weddings that it is becoming difficult for you to even show your portfolio to get other weddings and move forward. It's actually testimony to the fact that what you said and what it can do to anybody's life as a photographer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and thank you. And people, on a closing note, I would like to say that people ask me, what did you gain in photography? And though this session is not about me, but I think I'm going to take this opportunity to say that money will come no matter what you do, wherever you are. Uh, it might be slow, it might be fast, but in photography, what I gained as an individual is having met people like Shreya, and it is not yesterday. And people like people we've been interviewing, and during this lockdown time when everybody was feeling dejected and down and feeling broken and really concerned about their businesses, when we are talking inspiration, when we are having sessions like these, we are trying to spread positivity, and people like you and everybody else coming forward to share everything, which otherwise will not be possible. So I think that is this is what photography is, and photography is not just about camera and lens and gears and tips and tricks and f2.8s and f11s. It is much beyond that.
Absolutely. Though I have to add that I love my 1.2 and 2.8 lenses, but
Yeah, that we do.
I love it. I love it. And but at the same time, I feel happier seeing a simple photo of a mom holding a child. And coincidentally, that's the photo I won at your India Clicks. Your mom just holding a child, and there was nothing technical about that. I mean, it's just pure emotion. And I was shocked. I remember being shocked. Like, really, I won now, and but that is the power. And that I just want to end on that note also. That and this is something I've been feeling very, very strongly. And the reason why I feel people should think about the spiritual realm in photography, with everything that's going on with Black Lives Matter, and like in India also with what we are going through. Um, I'm beginning to feel that there is more you can do with your photography. Like, and I want to share like things that have happened to me while doing the spiritual practice. That I've been thinking that how can I make a difference within COVID, to make a difference to just make people happy through photographs. And I basically I live in a complex, and during this whole time with COVID, like everyone, like in the beginning there was like all fear and people saying a lot of things, and then slowly like the building people started finding vendors, managing everything, people volunteering, and I saw a lot of like goodness happen, like just watchmen leaving their family and staying here so that they could protect the building, like goodness and good things happening and coming from hope, and doing the right thing at different levels. And I kept thinking, I want to do something, I want to do something, to show my gratitude. And basically I sent a letter to my building manager, and I told him that, can you tell, can we do a portrait project with and ask someone and ask everyone, portraits for a cause, where everyone comes and I just do one portrait of their family and they pay a certain amount, and all the proceeds of that go to a charity and go to gifting a hard copy or a photo to all the staff that worked in the building. And that means everyone's. I've not completely started it because it's Bombay's still bad in terms of COVID, but everyone's like been so happy, and I know that like for me, this project is not about money. It's like it's a thought that, can I do more with my photography? Can I make a difference to people's lives? Can you show something more and tell more stories about people through your photography? Can you talk about your home and your village and your story and your background through your photography? And this is something I want people to think, that your photographs are not just aesthetic pretty photos. They can be much more. They can create movements, they can make people think, they can change lives. And moment you start dipping into that spiritual place, which in the beginning it's like difficult to go through, these things start happening where you start thinking that I think I can do more photography. So I want to leave people on that note that uh, what we do matters. It is an extremely powerful tool. It is work we create not just with a camera. It comes from our gut, our life experiences, our emotions, our pain, our learnings and YouTube, everything. It's a khichdi of many things. But that khichdi, when you can choose what you say with that, and I hope you say it. At least from India, we need people that starting to use that tool much more powerfully to impact lives, change lives, say something, be fearless. And that's what I hope I can inspire you to do, and leave you on that note.
Yeah, so true, so true. So thank you so much. It's almost 3 hours now. And
Sorry.
yeah, I think 4 minutes to 3 hours.
Okay, but
it
recently.
was quite phenomenal, and thank you so much, Shreya, again for accepting the invite and pouring your heart out. And
Absolutely.
people have all good things to talk about you. There was Arjun also there, and Shreya is too cool to be too cool. And so there are. Thank you, Justice Sir and Shreya. Great session. Monica, thank you, Justice Sir, for the session. Not to me, but you should thank Shreya for more power to you, and thanks Shreya. Shine on. And Monica says that she also does CSR in a true sense. I think these kinds of comments they are testimony to the fact that how much they love this session, and I truly enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you so much, and keep
And for
inspiring.
everyone for listening patiently for 3 hours. I don't know if I would have lasted listening to myself for 3 hours, but of course, thank you so much, and thank you, Jesse sir, and for all the work you always do, and your humor and just the way you are. I hope you continue doing it, and people see you for the difference you're making photography and photographers. I'll always be there to help you.
Sure, sure. And jaldi, I want to come to Mumbai to get my hands on that Ladakh book.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So that was yeah. Thank you so much, and take care. Keep
Okay.
enjoying.
Is it recorded? Like I don't. Is this I can record it?
Recording will be there. Don't worry.
Okay. Fine. All
Yeah.
right. Okay. Thank you, Jesse.
All right. Okay. Take care.